my face when I see 3 different white weenie results on MTG top 8? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and I'm going to use a Dealer's Choice donation deck list today. I am intrigued. On MTG Top 8, I was just kind of perusing deck lists, and I saw that White Weenie actually had a category. And by that, we mean mono-white aggro. And I don't mean initiative here, I mean straight up mono-white aggro. The first of these that I have pulled up here add a little bit of a life gain slant to it, with Halia Guided by Light fueling Aerith Gainsborough. And this was rather intriguing, as this was very much a +1/+1 counter-themed deck, with legacy classics like Thalia's Lieutenant adding counters to the team, and Urdnan Dromoka Warrior giving you good payoff of double strike on creatures if they have more than 2 +1/+1 counters. Sorry, 2 or more +1/+1 counters on them. I'm going to play the slightly spicier Japanese deck list today, as it features a Spider-Man card. And in pulling up the cards for this video, I learned that there are different keywords for the Spider-Man set versions and the Through the Omen Path versions. So the web slinging mechanic is now in web. And I have feelings about not using the same keywords. I have very large feelings about those, but maybe that's a podcast rant. The core of this deck is very much the same, and we do have some of that +1/+1 synergy here, as well as some cards that you might have seen in much older versions of Legacy or Modern decks. We still have some life gain stuff because Guide of Souls is just good, but we are very, very much beatdown focused here, and there's a return to actual factual Mother of Runes within this deck. Shift some of these a little bit. I think Suppression Field is some neat tech right now. This is something that can deal with the One Ring and Tezzeret and Karn all at the same time. I think this is pretty cool, and also significantly helps out with Nadu combo stuff as well. I believe this card is called Arachne in the paper version. Here it is Yera and Oski, Weaver and Guide. One of those is the spider and one of them isn't. And this is neat. So we can cast this for, it's definitely not web slinging, but legally distinct in web ability, if we pay 1 mana and we also return a tapped creature we control to our owner's hand. As this enters, we look at an opponent's hand and then choose a card type other than creature. Spells of the chosen type cost 1 more to cast. This is a nightmare for players of decks like Storm or the Karn Forge combo. Now, all your artifacts are more expensive. Now, all your instants and sorceries are more expensive. And while this isn't fully just a 1-mana Thalia, this is a 1-mana Thalia that can stack with OG Thalia. So it's neat. We are going to have the ability to put a lot of power onto board quickly. We're not even on game 1 Swords to Plowshares. I think we're on something ridiculous like 40 creatures here. A few of those don't super count because these are going to be lands most of the time, but this is very much a beatdown deck. And we're going to see how viable it is to largely not interact with our opponents and just try to beat them to death in current Legacy. Current Legacy's fast. Will we be fast enough? And if you need any of these new cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. I sold them a bunch of stuff over the weekend, and I was very, very satisfied with the process. Promo code ThrabenU will save you a little bit on your order if you're ordering online, and you always get free shipping. I love these guys. Check them out. All right, let's battle. Okay, opening hand here is probably fine, assuming we count Witch and Enchanter as a full-on land here. We are probably playing against some sort of 8-cast variant. All right, we have a Pinnacle Emissary. So this is the warp thing. So now any 0-cost artifact mana that my opponent plays out is going to result in them having a bunch of creatures, which is actually just super, super inconvenient for me because each one of these is going to be worth like 3 or more life from blocking a Champion of the Parish. So my opponent is cracking one of these artifacts. We're not having something like a Kappa Cannoneer come down immediately. But wowzers, Pinnacle Emissary. God damn it! That other one gets the Kappa Cannoneer. Fuck. Well, I guess since my opponent cracked one of those, that does mean that this is one smaller than it could be. I believe I'm just outright dead. I believe that I just got turn 1'd by a combo there. This is bigger than what I can do. I'm not going to get to 5 mana to remove this. I think I'm just going to full-on concede. And that was not a play versus draw difference. That just came out of the gates more quickly than what my deck is capable of doing. When I'm on the play, Deafening Silence does some stuff for sure. Lauren is fine. Swords is actively good. Deafening Silence is fine. A lot of my opponent's stuff is colorless. Mom is probably going to be the first thing that's going to go here. That's not going to help me through things like Urza's Saga. Yera is fine if I can get them down. I think I'm going to get rid of a creature that requires support. And if I want to play the Deafening Silences when I'm on the play, I need to make one more cut here. It would just be Kythian versus a pile of 1/1 tokens. And I think it's reasonable to think about the other static prison and the suppression fields as well, but I don't know how many creatures I can realistically be cutting here. This is an okay hand. I won't give it any more than that, but it's an okay hand. This mana ability is super awkward with Cavern of Souls, right? Because in theory, I would like to in web returning Guide of Souls on turn 2 and wasteland my opponent as a 1/2 punch, which means exposing my stuff to Force of Will. I think I'm going to accept that. Oh wait, hold on. Can I in-web off Cavern of Souls? Am I just wrong? It is an alternate casting cost. Okay. Patchwork Automaton in play. Well, I'll send in with my Guide of Souls. And we'll do the in-web. We're going to be choosing Artifact, obviously. Everything over there is expensive. Then we'll go Wasteland right there. I've got a 3/3 that makes my opponent's stuff expensive. Oh, interesting. They're just playing that as a tapped land rather than taking damage to start deploying these cards. So we will Cavern on human. And I think I just want to be mana efficient here. The next turn I can do both of these. So there's my +1/+1 counter here. I'm sending in for 4. Opponent's at 12 already. All right. They won a non-game. I won a non-game. We'll see if we play Magic in the last one. Now, in this next game, where I'm on the draw, the Deafening Silence does not stop the initial wave of artifact bullshit from coming out of hand, so I think I am probably going to get rid of those here. And I'm going to take another Static Prison for things like Emery and, to a lesser extent, Patchwork Automaton. I might play Suppression Field on the draw. Yeah. I think I'm going to cut the other Kythian as well. This is still 11 1-drops for the purposes of getting this into play. Hopefully that's enough. This is a very reasonable set of Magic the Gathering cards, but I think our win and loss is totally out of our hands if I keep this hand, which I'm going to do, because my opponent has draws that can come out faster than everything I am capable of doing. All right, they have a 3/4 flyer. That could definitely be worse. So which do I want to scale up more, Champion or Guide of Souls? Probably Champion. I want to get bigger than this. I think that's my plan. I think I'm doing Champion into turn 2 Voice of Victory. I think that's how I'm doing this. Opponent cycles that bobble, that's fine. So they get their redraw. 4 cards in hand as of their own turn. We'll see how deadly this gets. Thoughtcast is great. They need that sort of stuff right now. No damage from the springs. Cycling immediately. Are you the beatdown? My guess is you are not the beatdown, and they agree. Another basic plains is actually not all that bad. So we're going to go ahead and play Voice of Victory. That way if my opponent draws Force of Will and Force of Negation type cards, it's use them now or use them never. And we do get countered, unfortunately. If they have Force of Will in hand and are intending on forcing my creature, it's very possible that this was supposed to attack. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay. I really don't need the third Zack Fair. Absolutely don't need that. We'll live with it. Oh, I fucked up there. No, I didn't. So let's always yield to that. I will play a Zack. Opponent dismembers my Guide of Souls in response. Sure. So when this dies, I get to move its +1/+1 counter, right? No. Only if I sacrifice it, which I guess I'm doing. Alright. Send in for 4. I have a Witch Enchanter for if I draw another land, I can potentially use that to answer an Urza Saga Construct token or whatever. Oh, great. That's just a Kappa Cannoneer. That is devastating. So I'll do what I can here. This is not great. I can bash in for 6. That's the good news. But my opponent has so many blockers at this point. And this is going to make their Kappa Cannoneer unblockable. And I think if my opponent has a Shadow Spear here, the game is over. Yeah. I think gaining that 7 life here is insurmountable. This is rough. That more than doubled their life total. They don't have a land to Witch Enchanter the Shadow Spear. Or the Construct token, for that matter. And make a creature indestructible. Oh, this is also just going to kill me with any artifact, isn't it? And there's this flyer. No random reach from the spider. Yep. And this is what I was talking about with the opening hand here, where if my opponent did something more broken than what my hand was capable of, we were just going to be dead. I don't regret the keep. Like, we made a very, very large champion of the parish. We did something disruptive, but, like, hitting all 3 Zack Fairs, not what we needed off the top of the deck there. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. All right, opening hand is very solid here. I'm going to name Human. And honestly, I think I am going to play Mother of Runes immediately. We live in an Orcish Bowmaster world, and if I can stop my most important creature from dying to Orcish Bowmasters so that I can protect from all of the other removal, I think this is fine. And I'm not rewarded, as this is not a matchup where that matters. So, we're going to go ahead and get saucy here. There is a champion. Here is another champion. And we got paired against the colorless deck, so that means that I missed 2 points of damage this turn by choosing to play Mother of Runes first. We're getting in there. And hopefully I rip another creature off the top to keep the pressure up. Shit. Alright, that's the One Ring. I can Static Prison that out of the way. So my opponent is just going to gain a billion D life. Nice. So let's go ahead and Wasteland. I'll take them off of Planar Nexus, as that may contribute to more than just Urza's Tower. I'll go ahead and play a Zack. Then I will take that One Ring out of the way. But that One Ring Fog was worth 6 points of damage this turn. That was already worth a lot. And the Planar Nexus can also filter into colored mana for if my opponent is playing something like a blue version of a Cloudpost deck. We've got an Ancient Tomb. There's a Glaring Fleshraker. And unfortunately, opponent has some stuff to go with that immediately. Means that I'm going to be losing some life. And some of my smaller creatures are not necessarily getting through immediately. Hell yeah, though. So let's go ahead and do a Thalia's Lieutenant. That's going to grow the whole team. Now everyone can safely attack into Glaring Fleshraker. And note, when I say safely, I mean I don't give a shit if Mother of Runes dies and kills a Glaring Fleshraker. Opponent's still taking a respectable amount of damage. They're at 9. That is an Urza's Workshop. It's another Glaring Fleshraker. I'm at 17. There is a Walking Ballista. This is an annoying number of bodies here. I am at 11 life already. This target creature becomes indestructible. Alright, I'm just taking that damage. I'm at 9, but my opponent casually has 5 blockers. And that's not going to help me. My opponent gets this back next turn. I think I'm sending in with everything except Thalia's Lieutenant. Alright, here we go. Alright, blocks have been made. I imagine my opponent is now going to attempt to ping this. This damage is already blocked. I think I go ahead and make Thalia's Lieutenant indestructible and move my counters. This may scale up next turn. And Zack is legendary and Thalia's Lieutenant isn't. I'm going to hold this and pass the turn. I don't really have a reason to play it. There's another Workshop. That's a Karn. That's not great. I suspect that that means that I die immediately, as my opponent just gets anything that is castable. Yeah, so there's just a Tormod's Crypt. That's worth a couple of points of direct damage. And then they can just attack me, right? Oh, they just had more stuff too. Disgusting. That one ring fog won my opponent the game for sure. Alright, let's get Suppression Field in here. Let's get Lauren in here. Let's get Static Prison in here. Deafening Silence and Sanctum Prelate both feel mid. Swords to Plowshares I can think about because disrupting Glaring Fleshraker matters a lot. Mother of Runes is going to be the first thing that goes, as this is a colorless matchup. Let's maybe trim this. Voice of Victory itself is a human, but it does make red warrior tokens, which doesn't have perfect synergy with the rest of the deck. There are some of these that aren't going to attack super well into Glaring Fleshraker, and I think Zack falls into that category. Oh, what if we do this? This is a 1 land hand that gets real out of line if I draw a land. I don't think I'm willing to keep this on 7. The 6-card hand is fine. I always have to keep the 2 lands. I always have to keep Guide of Souls. I'm going to get rid of one of these 2 pieces of interaction. And I think it's Swords. Static Prison just answers more stuff. I am going to deal an exceptional amount of damage to myself with this hand, though. Like, this is a game where I'm going to start the game at 14 life in all likelihood. I might be able... Ancient Tomb. Grim Monolith. Oh, please don't get in under my fucking spider thing. They got in under my fucking spider thing. So they get to untap Grim Monolith and keep deploying cards here. This is very unfortunate for me, because now they are up to 1 ring mana immediately. I think I'm attacking the Grim Monolith. With Static Prison is the remainder of that thought. I'm going to attack Tezzeret. Tezzeret goes down by 1. Now we're going to go ahead and do In-Web. And this is an As. So we can go and try to get perfect information about this hand. All right, there is a Kozilek's Command. This is too big for my opponent to hit with Kozilek's Command immediately. I think I'll still name Artifact. So I'm going to take 3 here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and go for the Static Prison. And take out the Grim Monolith. Try to bottleneck my opponent on mana. And then hope that I end up doing Guide of Souls Voice of Victory nonsense. Not playing Guide of Souls means that my opponent can't just Kozilek's Command it away while doing something else this turn. I'm fully expecting my opponent to make 2 spawns and draw a card here. And I am correct. Take that out of hand. And I'll pass the turn here. The spawns are definitely annoying as blockers for Tezzeret. There's some timelines where Tezzeret just minuses here, picks up a reasonable Magic the Gathering card, and then my opponent pivots into an Urza's Saga game. God damn it. Oh. Now my opponent gets to, like, free Mystic Forge from their hand. Potentially, and cast more spells beyond that. So 3 mana, then an untap, then the Mystic Forge happens. Exiling a card. An opponent leaves back some defenders for Tezzeret, which is not great for me. I missed my land drop, which means Guide of Souls is kind of awkward this turn, which is unfortunate. My opponent could potentially just ultimate Tezzeret this turn now, and this is such an easy block. So now my opponent can potentially just, like, Tezzeret ultimate, win the game that way, win the game through Mystic Forge nonsense, win the game through 2 large Urza Saga Construct tokens. I'm very behind. Alright, Tezzeret is on untap duty. Okay. I mean, this probably means that I get to kill Tezzeret. I have 6 damage already showing, and can probably generate a little more with Guide of Souls if I don't pay for Static Prison. 1 energy now, Voice of Victory trigger, 2 energy, total of 3. Yeah, I can kill Tezzeret. Okay. Hate that for me. We can still do Guide of Souls nonsense. Guide of Souls into champion, 1 energy, Voice of Victory, energy. I can pay for this again if I want. I think I will. And my opponent doesn't get to cast spells right now. There's the champion. Let's just always yield to that. We're attacking Tezzeret. Guide of Souls trigger on bottom. Attacking Tezzeret. This is attacking Tezzeret. Say yes to this. Put the counters here. This is unfortunately only 5 damage at that Tezzeret. And I'll give that Grim Monolith back next turn. Opponent is at 9 life with 2 Ancient Tombs in play. But it's not as bad as it looks because Grim Monolith and Tezzeret represents 3 mana. And there's potentially going to be another, like, Voltaic Key, Manifold Key style card here that will represent more. Alright, so now that's gone. That is a Walking Ballista simply for a loyalty. There's a Grim Monolith. By the way, in case that doesn't make sense, that was, I didn't track exactly, but that was probably off of the Mystic Forge up top, rather than played out from hand. 1 ring draws some cards, and this is very, very good manipulation with Mystic Forge. And now my opponent has to... Never mind. I was gonna talk about how, like, there is this sub-game here between, like, drawing more cards and, like, being bottlenecked on mana, but Glaring Fleshraker kind of makes all of that uninteresting now. Alright, we've seen how this song and dance goes. Opponent's at 5, I'm at 14. I think they are overwhelmingly favored to win this game. And I don't think it's close. There's some untapping of mana, followed by another Tezzeret. And now we'll see if they want... Oh, they're just going for a tutor. Sure. Another key. Yep. So when that stack clears, I am at 2, and the next spell kills me. My opponent's still got the 1 ring. When they untap that, they've got 6 cards in hand. They're going to have an artifact. And that'll do. I am dead. GG. These colorless decks don't feel like good matchups for us. The 1 ring fog is too much. I'm gonna go ahead and keep my opening hand here. I think, like my opponent to play a non-basic land on turn 1. Maybe not exactly like that, but that's, I think, fine. Sure. I think I just wasteland this immediately, despite the fact that my opponent might destroy that land themselves. I don't think I am going to give them a chance to use that mana. We live in a 1 ring world. And notably, I do have Cavernous Souls in my deck, so Champion of the Parish could become castable in the not-too-distant future. Oh, my opponent is a Cavern of Souls deck themselves. Goblin. Blood Moon. Get wrecked, nerd. Thalia as my best play here, probably. I'll put my 1-drop under there. Basic Plains. Thalia immediately. Then next turn, I'm probably looking at this to make my opponent's spells more expensive. Oh, so this just comes out in the wash, right? This is 3. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and tap my mountain. Yeah, I'm going to do this pre-combat just to look at my opponent's hand, just in case there's anything weird there. All right, so this is other than creatures, so those just exist. I think I will be saying artifact for artifact mana here. And we're sending on in. Okay, cool. Opponent did not hit a land for broadside, which means that I can start pumping the team. My opponent throws a chalice, they can deal 2 damage with it. They hit something else that's castable, though. Oh, they hit a spirit guide. Why did you play your turn like that? I would have been all over throwing that chalice. Now I'm going to get, like, ward stuff going on. So let's go ahead and throw down the Voice of Victory, followed by the Vanguard, and we're going to swing in for 7. I suppose my opponent doesn't know the exact configuration of my hand in terms of how many 1-drops I have, but I would have really been trying to stabilize the board with broadside. So you throw, you take out, I think it had to be the Thalia at that time, and then you can hit a land, play Magus, throw at this. The next game is not going to be that easy, though. I'm into removal. I'm probably into suppression field for things like One Ring and Broadside, and I can think about Lauren. This card is not going to be great here, I think. Because a lot of times I'm going to want to name creature for things like Fury and Pyroglyph in the mid-game, so I think this is just going to go. The Indestructible has some text. A little hard for me to leave up mana. Sanctum Prelate has some text as well. Naming 4 can stop things like Fiery Confluence and the One Ring. But again, it is another non-creature thing. I think we just got lucky that my opponent had lock pieces and not threats that game. Hopefully that same thing happens in one of these 2 post-sideboard games, but now my opponent knows what sort of hand they're going to need to beat me. Very on the fence about this Lauren. It's just so slow. And I don't have any tutors for it to, like, find it at the right time to answer a Chalice of the Void or anything like that. I think I'm just going to not. This is perfectly reasonable. I'll keep this one. I think my opponent's deck is very capable of starts that I can never beat. Like at Once Upon a Time. Getting a Spirit Guide, playing a basic Plains. Okay. That means that I don't get to Wasteland this turn. I might not be Wastelanding next turn either. I'm not going to do Cavern here. I'm not expecting counterspells, and I might need to do something like Swords plus Wasteland next turn. That's a Spirit Guide for an immediate Broadside, which honestly is not very good right now. My opponent keep a 1-lander? Oh, they've got a Fury. Sure. Same question. Alright, so they're just going to do that and try to nuke me immediately. Do I play Kythian here? Probably. Play Kythian, hold up Swords to Plowshares. I could alternatively do something like just play Suppression Field this turn, but I don't expect my opponent to jump to 1 ring mana. Swords your Broadside. Opponent's at 22, and now is not playing Magic the Gathering TM. Vanguard probably for the ward. Let's do Vanguard for the ward. Send in for 3. 19. Opponent is not playing Magic the Gathering. Champion is cool. I will go ahead and play a champion. Let's get another instance of ward going here. Always yield to that. Go to punchies. Get in for 7. Opponent's at 12, and I certainly have that much on board for next turn. Alright, there is a Fury. Each one of my creatures has 2 instances of Ward 1. Hello, and good luck. Opponent recognizes that and concedes. I fully think their hand was probably a mulligan. I guess they kept their hand trying to hit another land with Once Upon a Time and just missed. And they were trying to hit another land and then just roll with Fury and Broadside. That a 7 or was that a 6? No, that was a 7. Yeah, I would have mulliganed that one, I think. GG's. Okie dokie. I have an okay opening hand here. I have two different 1-drop threats. I have a Thalia's Lieutenant for scaling. I have a Wasteland for interaction. I'm not vulnerable to counter spells. And we'll see how this goes. The basic land is not what I want to see. And I'm not in love with Thoughtseize happening either. I think Guide of Souls is pretty easily the best card in my hand. Opponent agrees. Well, now the next question is like, which land do I play? Opponent could be Poxy bullshit, in which case it might be better to play basic planes so I don't get Wasteland plus Fatal Push as my turn. It'll be embarrassing if this gets Force of Willed, though. It does not. Dark Ritual into Thoughtseize. It's still targeting me. Now at this point, I think Thalia's Lieutenant is pretty easily my best card. Opponent agrees again. And it's just a Dauthi Voidwalker and a Snuff Out. Sure. Witch Enchanter is probably a land. Both of these plays attack for 2 next turn. If more discard happens, I think I want this one in play. We're going to go Cavern on Human. And little things in terms of optimization. I think there's a good chance that my opponent should have played Dauthi Voidwalker prior to Thoughtseize so that whatever this card is ends up in exile. If I've got some absolute banger of a card that I drew, it is very possible that my opponent might want to cast that off of the Dauthi. All right. Well, I guess 1 mana. Yeah, this is 1 mana to do. So this is fine, I think, to just do now. I will send in for 2 points of damage. Oh, opponent. You did not read the card. So this is Fatal Push targeting Coppercoat Vanguard. So I'll sacrifice Zack. My creature is now indestructible. And I hit you for 1 more point of damage. Opponent is at 8. In case I play this as a creature, if I flood out, I think I will just play Wasteland here. Opponent is continuing to attack with Dauthi Voidwalker. There are defensive options here. There is a Cecil Dark Knight. So this has to deal combat damage to me to transform it into the Lifelinker. 4/4 on the back? 4/4 on the back. Okay. That might just mean that I'm trading Coppercoat Vanguard or Witch Enchanter for it. I'm thinking about whether or not I'm attacking. I think I'm attacking. Send in. Alright, so we are trading. That's fine. And my opponent dealt 2 damage. They lose 2 life. So I still force some damage through on this turn. I'll imprint 1 Witch Enchanter to cast the other. And then I'm at the mercy of the top of my deck. My opponent is at 6 life. I currently race their Dauthi Voidwalker. They've got 2 cards in hand that presumably they cannot cast because they do not have mana. Wasteland is fine. That doesn't really do anything. It may enable my opponent to cast something like an Orcish Bowmaster, though. I'm just going to kind of passively keep in mind that that is something that could be flashed in. I wish I had a stop right here that would have Wastelanded my opponent in draw step to better play around Bowmaster here. So there's trigger. Go to combat. Send in for 3. Hit opponent for 3 successfully. End step? Nothing. Is it worth 2 of my lands to Wasteland you? Probably. A Barrowgoyf would be a disaster. I think that's worth 2 of my lands. Yeah. And opponent concedes. Yeah, I don't know if they had like Dauthi Voidwalkers or Hymn to Turox in their hand that they couldn't cast or what exactly. But they definitely had some uncastables over there. So let's imagine that a couple of removal spells are good. I wonder if my opponent could have bought some time by sacrificing Dauthi Voidwalker and just getting a blocker from the creatures that I played. Maybe that buys them another turn. I don't remember exactly what their life total was there at the end. Is this an X1 itself? It is an X1. The double strike is cool. I have a lot of X1s. Not the best versus Bowmasters. Also lighter on removal than I would like to be. I think I'm just going to trim a couple of X1 creatures and call that good. And hopefully winning game 1 just means that I can take one of these next 2. My opponent can do some very silly things with Dark Ritual, but they aren't things that just instantly win the game. This looks fine. I have better 1-drops than Zack. Okay, no immediate Thoughtseize. I don't need that other Cavern of Souls. But this is what I'm getting. And I would love it if Zack ate a Fatal Push or Dismember or whatever here. Zack is just worse than my other creatures. Oh, we do have blue in there. Well, that might just be a blue Surveil land. This very much feels like a mono black deck. Hey, I played around that last time. Got a fetch? Yeah. Powder keg. Sure. Doesn't seem like I care too awful much. I care about drawing these extra lands. That's what I care about. I'm going to go Voice of Victory. Crash in for 1 point of damage with Zack. There's some timelines where I end up just using Static Prison on Powder Keg. So this happens at the beginning of upkeep. Land drop 3. Douthie is fine. Oh, my opponent just destroyed Zack. That feels wrong. I think you wait on that. You man. I'm going to go ahead and do another Voice of Victory here. And I can decide whether or not I want to Static Prison Douthie Voidwalker. Douthie does not feel that threatening, whereas a Barrowglyph would be. So I think I let Douthie chill. But because my opponent sacrificed Powder Keg on their own turn, I can now safely have 2 or 3 1-drops in play. So this is fine. I'm getting hit for 3, but I'm cracking back for at least 6 damage, probably more, probably 8. A Fatal Push is fine. And then there's going to be something else. The Goyf, the Opposition Agent. Sure. That's not a very good card. I don't fetch. I am probably going to Static Prison it just so I can hit my opponent for more damage. But I don't actually care about it. You man. There's a new Voice of Victory. Do I care if I lose a Voice of Victory? Kind of. I really just don't want to lose this game to a Goyf. I really don't want to lose this game to a Goyf. This is 2 damage and destroy target creature. I'm just going to go ahead and send this. Opponent's at 11. Bowmasters is fine. Vessel is more annoying. That might be my Static Prison target now. I will take 3. 13. Very reluctantly, I'm going to do this, I think. Take the Death Toucher off the board. And send in with just Voice of Victory, I think. It's worth 4 points of damage. That seems good enough. I don't think I want to trade this away. So we'll mobilize. Oh wow, opponent is trading bodies very aggressively here. They need the life. This may be the point where my opponent needs to start thinking about not attacking with Douthie Voidwalker and just converting it into a thing that says gain 2 life each turn. Opponent disagrees. I'm at 10. Another Douthie. Sure, that's reasonable. You know, I do kind of need to draw some things other than lands eventually. I do get the first attack here, though. Like, we are each attacking for 6, but my attack happens first. Opponent's at 3. Facing down lethal. I have 1 energy left. I can pay for Static Prison 1 more time. Opponent can convert 2 Douthie Voidwalkers into 2 Voice of Victories here, or Voice of Victory plus Zack here. Instead, they concede. We'll take that, but I think my opponent was not out of this game yet. I had flooded out. But we take those. GG's. I'm not sure if this has enough oomph. This is turn 1 Zack, which is only a 1 power creature. I'm attacking for 2 on turn 2. I can remove 1 threat. This is 4 lands. I think that's too much land for this deck. This is a better hand. I'll probably keep this one and get rid of a secondary copy of Zack. This being a legendary creature is a pretty big downside. So let's go ahead and just go Guide of Souls Basic Plains. Hope for the best. I do have to play Witch Enchanter as a land on turn 2 if I want to deploy both of these immediately. Which might not be happening anymore, because Urza Saga is scary. I'm going to go ahead and send in for my 1 point of damage. Bring opponent to 19. Wasteland and Urza Saga, and then probably play the creature that attacks for 2 next turn. Gaining my 1 life and energy. Remember how much harder this was to transform than Tamiyo? Oh, power creep. We've got a red Urza Saga deck, could be Painter, could be a Moon Stompy deck. They're in the tank about something over there, but they are just passing the turn. So I could play this. I think I'm just going to hold Zack up as protection, though. My opponent went into the tank, which kind of makes me think that they have removal, and they were wondering whether or not it was correct to use it. Send it. This is 3 damage. I've made my land drop, so I'll pass the turn. 3 mana to make it indestructible. That's so much. Another basic mountain into Lava Spur Boots. Opponent's hand might have been Urza Saga or Bust. Cavern of Souls. Okay. So this is going to transform into the Planeswalker. That will effectively be a 4/4. Got it. I'm going to keep holding this in case it is relevant later. I think I am going to go Human. Gain my energy. Do this here, I think. We're going to have a layer of Zack protection. Send in Urdnan trigger on the bottom. Say yes. Counters here. This is now a 4/4 double striker. Opponent takes a ton of damage. They're down to 5. And now we'll go ahead and just make my Guide of Souls indestructible and untap it. Seems good. Also move Zack's +1/+1 counter if I need to. Yeah, after I destroyed that Urza Saga, my opponent just did not play Magic. So unfortunately, we don't know a ton about what my opponent is doing. Luckily, I don't know that it matters much. Regardless of which exact deck they are playing, we're probably going to be thinking about some number of these cards. And it just depends on like which portion of the like Painter versus Moonstompy spectrum they're on, or how good these are individually. I think I'm gonna imagine that this is not particularly good. I could just not do Suppression Field on the draw. That's reasonable. From one other random creature. This is an okay pile of Magic the Gathering cards, although I would really like an extra land. My opponent just outright lost the game last time when I wastelanded them. Hopefully that happens again. There's Wasteland. And again, I would like to draw another land so that I can kind of keep deploying all of my various creatures on curve. That probably means that this is Painter. All right, I drew another land. Fantastic. Which one do I want to come down first? Probably Mom, because things like Fury exist. Goblin Welder. Sure. Welder's scary. I could think about this turn for a very long time now. I'm doing 2 of these cards in some order, I think. I want to have 3 energy next turn to make something fly. I think that means I do Guide of Souls, followed by Champion. We're not going to do a Saucy Mom attack or anything. Second land drop. Or Haste? I was going to say, like, losing this land drop next turn seems crazy to me. There's a Painter. Everything's blue. And we're chilling. This is pretty damn good. The turn's going to be a little different than what I was anticipating, though. Because we will go bam, then bam, just always yield to this. I only have 2 energy now. I don't get to do the cool energy thing. Didn't really want to play out this many creatures in respect of Fury. Even if Mom is here, like, it is still a pretty good Fury. Okay, opponent is just chilling. Could be a Lightning Bolt style card here. I think I am interested in Thalia's Lieutenant or the +1/+1 counters here. Oh yeah. So, team gets big. Go to punchies, 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 punchies. Guide of Souls trigger. Say yes to that. I'm just going to put it on the Guide of Souls itself. Opponent's not at the point of chump blocking yet. They are at 7. I think my opponent needed to mulligan their hands. They did not play Magic the Gathering in either one of those games because they were vulnerable to a single Wasteland. Regardless, we put a positive finish up on the board here. GG's. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Decisively medium. A bunch of the cool things that can potentially happen in this deck, I think, are not going to happen with a great degree of consistency. We managed to line up the double strike with 2 +1/+1 counters once in this league, although this was one of the cards that I was pretty quick to sideboard out. I don't feel like it is a necessary part of the deck, but it's solid. Zack saved a creature or 2 from removal spells, although honestly, one of those cases, that was my opponent missing an onboard trick here. I don't know that you can a 1 mana for a 1/2 in Legacy, even with this amount of synergy. this card did some things. Sometimes it is a solid-sized body, but this is kind of a 2-mana 3/3 Baby Thalia, because it is going to require you to invest a mana into this creature in the first place. I think I'm mid on this overall, and I'm going to take another look at the other list real quick just for the sake of comparison. So the other list has one more land, a couple of ancient tombs in an attempt to get some life gain stuff going. And it has legendary creature payoff that I suppose makes Zack a little bit better. I do slightly wonder at what point do we just say, like, okay, we're just going to play Ocelot Pride even though it's not a human, because it is silly with some of the things going on here. But overall, this seems like a reasonable way to spend your night at a local legacy scene. I don't know that I would want to be firing this into tournaments. The suppression field tech is interesting. I feel like I like it a little bit more if we're playing more copies of like Lotus Petal or Chrome Mox, so I have a better chance of sticking it at turn 1. But I guess the Deafening Silence is supposed to help get us to that point in some cases. So it turns out just sending it with soldiers is okay. There's a soldiers joke here, but I am tired and I can't quite put it together. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a day here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any thoughts about how to tweak this one, throw it down in the comments below. All right, have a great rest of the day. See ya!